How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with Alex and Ryan. I apologize if there's any audio problems going on. I left my headphones elsewhere. We'll be getting them back in a couple days, or hopefully I'll have it solved by tomorrow, so all audio problems will be fixed and solved. But nonetheless, we wanted to get you guys another episode, some more news. Today, rumors kind of all about, and today's rumor is that, according to Brendan Cuddy of The Athletic, the Yankees have been fielding calls and not necessarily looking to trade this player, but super utility man fan favorite Oswaldo Cabrera. I don't think the Yankees are going to trade Cabrera, but they have gotten calls from teams interested in his services. Now, I think it's quite obvious why. He can play multiple positions. He's the perfect super utility man. I mean, look, he's not going to be an above-average offensive player. Maybe he gets closer to that 100 WRC plus mark, but he's a great defender at multiple spots. Good second baseman, decent first baseman, can play third base, can play shortstop, all the outfield positions, more notably the corner outfield spots. This is a guy that really has that super utility moniker, and I think he's earned that right, to be honest with you. I think he's a valuable piece to this team, and he is one of those necessities on a team that really has not much depth at a lot of places. You know, the infield, there's not much depth there. I don't view DJ LeMahieu, the fossil that he is at this point in time, as a viable solution as a starter or even really a depth piece. I don't think the Yankees do. We keep hearing rumors about Brendan Rodgers and all sorts of different players that suggest that they don't have much faith in him. Outfield-wise, they have Trent Grisham, and aside from him, that's really it. So Cabrera having that ability to play those corner outfield spots is certainly valuable. But Ryan, this one was a surprise. Didn't see that coming. I don't think the Yankees are going to trade him because they love Cabrera. I think he's a really great locker room guy. He's great for the image of the organization. Everybody loves him. I don't really view him as an actual trade piece, but more so Yankees just seeing, well, let's see what people are willing to give us, and maybe we would consider it if it was something substantial.
Yeah, look, I am a strong believer in this idea that the Yankees should not have untouchables. Like, Aaron Judge should be untouchable, Garrett Cole should be untouchable, but outside of that, there should be no such thing as untouchables. And look, it's not like the Yankees are shopping Cabrera. Teams are the ones inquiring about Cabrera. I'm sure it benefits and behooves Brian Cashman to listen to what they have to say. As you mentioned, if a team goes like, hey, here's 6 years of this controllable left-handed relief stud, like, yeah, you're going to consider it, right? I mean, Yankees are looking for left-handed help. Maybe, if a team is like, hey, we'll give you, for example, and I guess this is an interesting question. Maybe this would be a good way to kind of gauge his value. Would you trade, if the Padres went up to you and went, we'll give you Luis Arraez, we'll eat about $3 million of the projected $13 million of arbitration he's owed, and you give us Oswaldo Cabrera, would you do that deal? I would have to think about it. You don't trade any prospects, and you get, like, the tough part is, as you mentioned, depth. You mentioned depth. Yankees don't have a lot of infield depth. It's LeMahieu and Peraza as your next man up, and I think Cabrera is a huge step up over both those players. Cabrera can play shortstop. I know Peraza can, but again, I just think Cabrera is a considerably, more, I know what he is, and at very least he can hit right-handed pitching. Hit a 107 WRC plus against righties this past season. But I guess let's be focused more on what I just mentioned with Arraez and Cabrera. I'm not saying this happened. I'm just in this hypothetical kind of see how valuable people may think Cabrera is, or how valuable you think Cabrera is. If that was the proposal the Padres made, so it's Luis Arraez, they eat $3 million of that, so your payroll goes up by $10 million, and it's just for Oswaldo Cabrera, would you do that deal? I think I would.
It's a great question. Man, I really don't love the idea of trading a piece we know what Oswaldo Cabrera is. Like, we know what kind of player he is. He's a great defensive asset, and I think he can get up to around a 95 WRC plus. I think his offensive stuff is improving. I just don't. I'd rather give up something I don't know what he is. You know what I mean? I'd rather give up an unknown than a piece that I think has a lot of value here. If you lose Oswaldo Cabrera, you lose one of your most critical depth pieces. And I would like to say, when we went into the playoffs last year, we needed those depth pieces to step up. We were looking into John Birdie to step up and help. We were looking to some of these guys to play meaningful baseball for us in October. And, I think Cabrera has that ability to step in and fill a multitude of different roles. I don't necessarily love the idea of trading him. What would you do in this situation? I know you're like a little bit more like, okay, maybe I'd consider it. I'd be willing more so to trade an unknown, maybe a package, a smaller package, like 2 players of unknown, rather than a guy that we know what he can offer and is a solid piece.
Yeah, I think it's fair to also mention that, Arraez has 1 year of control, and that definitely plays a huge role in this, whereas Cabrera has 3 years of arbitration eligible control left, and then another year of control pre-arbitration. That definitely matters. He's not a free agent until after the 2028 season. I think another part of this is the way that Arraez's value has been described. This is from Kevin Ace of the San Diego Union Tribune. This is not like, Yankee Boy telling you about Luis Arraez's value. This is a guy with direct connects to the organization. The price tag, this is from his article, the price tag for Arraez and Cease is high enough that the Padres have explored trading both. Arraez makes $13 million or more in 25. Arraez making $30 million or more in 25 presents a particular challenge. So, to me at least, that indicates that the Padres are not going to get the value that they're looking for on Arraez. And perhaps if you're the Yankees, the value that you're looking for is so low, or the value that they can get, and the value the Padres can get for Arraez is so low that it is below Oswaldo Cabrera, right? Like maybe that is the point we're getting towards. I think another point to mention is, if you trade away Cabrera and someone goes down your infield, you're screwed, right? Like you're royally screwed. What I would do, and the only reason I said I would consider it, or I'd say I'd do it, is because if it's in the situation where I guess it's like it's that or don't get anybody, but I don't think this is a that or don't get anybody situation. It does not feel like the Padres are in the driver's seat here. It feels like the Yankees have identified that the Padres are not in the driver's seat on the Luis Arraez trade. It doesn't seem like San Diego can sit back and go, yeah, we'll spend regardless. They're gonna go. They've never gone to arbitration with a player under AJ Preller. They might go to arbitration with like 3 or 4 guys this year. The ownership problem they have is very, very, very real. This is very similar to last year's situation with Soto, where, it felt like the Yankees were in because they had money, salary relief to provide for the Padres. If you're the Yankees, why even force a trade here? Why not wait it out? And the other thing I'd like to mention is because Cabrera can hit right-handed pitching at a 107 WRC plus against them this past season, what you could do, worst case scenario, like you really can't pull off the trade for Arraez, or you don't think it's a good fit, or the Padres refuse to budge on their asking price. Bregman signed a 6-year deal. The Yankees aren't doing that. I'm not trading for Arenado. I'm sorry. I don't want him. He's also not good against left-handed pitching, so he doesn't fill a platoon need either. If you sign Brendan Rodgers as your left-handed platoon, you go Cabrera Rodgers. I've seen that floated out there. Is that the sexiest idea? Do I love it? No, but at least that's there and available and on the table, and you could still do it. You know what I mean? There are still ways to get creative here with Cabrera because of the fact that he hits right-handed pitching and can play all over the diamond. Ideal world, this is my ideal world. Yankees get an infielder, a starting infielder, whether that's Luis Arraez or somebody else. They import Rodgers onto the roster, and they have Cabrera on the roster. They have all those guys, and their infield depth chart looks really good. Because now you can say, if Volpe goes down, if Jazz goes down, if Arraez goes down, if Goldschmidt goes down, I've got dudes who can play all over the diamond. I've got dudes who can shuffle around. I can make something happen and make my infield work out. I wrote this morning about the Cabrera thing, and I talked a lot about versatility and what the Yankees can do. Rice can catch and play first. Bellinger can play all 3 outfield spots and play first. Jazz can play center field and has played a game in center field for the Yankees. I'm sure the Yankees would have him do it if it came down to it, if they had to do it, if something came up and they had to do something in a pinch. He could play the outfield, second, third. He has played a little bit of short. I'm sure they would let him do that in a pinch as well because he's a freak athlete. Volpe can probably play second or third. I don't think the Yankees would ever move him second or third, but you get my point. They have a lot of flexibility. Cabrera can play first at a pretty high level. I was very impressed with what I saw from Cabrera at first base last year. I think that's part of the trade value here. Impressive at first, impressive at second, impressive at third, impressive at short. Maybe not as impressive in the corner outfield, but there's a lot of versatility on this roster. There's a lot of ways to mix and match, and when guys get hurt, guys go down. When there are certain matchups, when guys are hot, guys are cold, they need to mix things up around a little bit. I want them to keep getting more versatile, keep them more flexible, so I would agree, trading Cabrera would kind of fly against that. It would fly against building up your infield depth. And even for Arraez, where Arraez is clearly the better player, you are trading 4 years of one player for 1 year of one player. So that's a question mark. I think I've kind of talked myself into more of your situation, but it's interesting to see that people are interested, though. I wonder what you could get back for Cabrera, and I'm sure it's not enough for the Yankees to budge on it. But what are your expectations for him next year? Does this mean that you think the Yankees that they're going to play him a good bit next year, even if they do get an infielder?
I mean, they always have to. I would rather play Oswaldo over DJ LeMahieu at this point in his career. And other than those two guys, it's Oswald Peraza, and I'd rather Cabrera play than Oswald Peraza too. So, like you said, he's controllable. If the Yankees were going to trade Oswaldo Cabrera, it would have, in my kind of vision, it would probably be for like a controllable lefty bullpen arm. I don't know. I don't really know what they would get in return for Cabrera. That's kind of. And that's why I don't think they're going to trade him, is because I don't think there's anything they really need that trading Cabrera could get them. You know what I mean? And like you said, Luis Arraez, great player, obviously. Like we've talked about him extensively on this podcast. But with that being said, 1 year of control, the Yankees aren't going to extend Luis Arraez, most likely. You're trading multiple years of Cabrera, cost-efficient, super utility man, a really well-liked player in this clubhouse, to get Arraez his arbitration salary, as I think expected to be about $12.6 million. That's a sizable amount. You have to offload Marcus Stroman's salary to pay for that, too. So I think it's a little bit more of a creative kind of balance you'd have to go through in that instance. But I just don't really see Arraez for Cabrera. You're going to let Arraez go because we want Kyle Tucker next offseason, right? I'm not trying. And we also have Paul Goldschmidt coming off the books. We have a couple of needs. We're not going to spend, $17, $18 million per season on Luis Arraez, depending on how good of a season he has. And also needing a first baseman, that could be Ben Rice. We don't know yet. And you want to go after Kyle Tucker, and I think that's what the Yankees have kind of positioned themselves as. They have a lot of money coming off the books next year. Devin Williams is on a 1-year contract. Well, rather, he's in the final year of arbitration, I believe. So, or maybe not. Maybe he was on that extension. But he has 1 more year left on his deal. You have Paul Goldschmidt on a 1-year deal. You basically, realistically, Cody Bellinger, if he has a good season, he may opt out of his deal and want more money and want longer years if he has a good season. Yankee Stadium is a really preferable place for him. He's probably going to have a good year, especially if he plays center field, a much more favorable position for him if he has a good defensive campaign. The Yankees have a lot of money coming off the books on 1-year deals. They're kind of a patchwork right now. They patchworked this 2025 season with decent players, good players with some upside, and I think that's fine. That's doable. The high upside guys, really good locker room people. I think that for the most part, it's been a successful offseason. But they got enough money coming off the books next year to say, all right, well, not to mention Aaron Hicks is $10 million and Rizzo's $6 million, which does count against the luxury tax threshold. Then you have Bellinger's 26, you have Paul Goldschmidt's 12.5, you have Devin Williams 7 or 8, whatever it is. And, then you have Arraez at 12.6 would be coming off the books as well in this instance. You're spending that money on Kyle Tucker, so you're not extending Luis Arraez, right? I think that's kind of out of the question. I'm not willing to give up an MLB impact. I would not call Oswaldo Cabrera an impact piece. It might be a little bit much for my liking, but I would call him a valuable piece. I call him, just someone that can step in and cover a position on any given day. Inconsistencies, injuries, he is super valuable. I don't want to give that up for 1 year of Arraez because we know we're not probably going to extend him, and he comes with flaws. I'm not willing to give up anything proven for Luis Arraez. In fact, Ryan, you tell me, the Padres seem more likely that they want to get rid of him because they want to dump his salary than anything else. Not because they feel they can get great value from right now, but because they want to get rid of his money. I'm not giving an MLB caliber player that is valuable to the Yankees equation in many different ways for 1 year of a player that another team is trying to dump with their money. So I'm willing to give a middling prospect, but not much more than that, to be quite honest, because we're taking that money. And that's really the most important thing in this equation, that we are taking the 12.6 estimated arbitration salary from the Padres, and they get to offload that cash. And I think that's probably what their preference is right now. It's not about getting anything realistically valuable in return for Arraez. I think that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I don't think this is a scenario where the San Diego Padres can sit back and say, we want Chase Hampton, we want Spencer Jones. No, you're not getting any of that. This is not even we want Michael King and Drew Thorpe, and we're not trading him until we get that player. No, Luis Arraez is not Juan Soto. Luis Arraez is a pretty good player. A pretty good player who, on the Padres, is a first baseman. And I know that people are going to say, well, he's a bad defensive second baseman, and that is true. But even a bad defensive second baseman is more valuable than a bad defensive first baseman. You see, a bad defensive second baseman is still a second baseman. It's kind of like when people go, for example, when everyone mentions Derek Jeter has negative 162 defensive runs saved. He's the worst defender ever. No. even if you, and there are people that I'm not even going to get into whether Jeter's a bad defensive shortstop or not. I'll let the comments do that. I'm not going to anger people today. A bad defensive shortstop is not the worst defensive player ever. A bad defensive first baseman, a bad defensive left fielder, a bad defensive right fielder, those are the worst defensive players. So when you look at what Luis Arraez's value to the Padres is, it's as a bad first baseman defensively, who's playing out of position, and a DH. The value is extremely limited from their perspective. They will extrapolate maybe one, maybe two WAR out of him. And they know that. And they know they don't want to pay for that. So they're in a bad spot. They have to trade him, or they have to overpay him in arbitration. And the Padres seem more willing to lose games than to overpay a guy in arbitration. And honestly, I get it, from the standpoint of, you don't want to overpay a player, but it's also a huge part because, again, that ownership group is a disaster right now. The Seidler family's having a ton of infighting, and granted, I'm not the most informed in the situation. It's why I'm not, providing an opinion on right, wrong, this person's right, I'm on this person's side, whatever it may be. I have to read into it a lot more to understand really what's going on. But if the alleged stuff from the widow of Peter Seidler, who passed away unfortunately last year, if the widow, based on what she's accused the brothers of Peter Seidler of doing, they're trying to relocate. They have some serious toxic work environment situations. We referenced this a little bit on the Sasaki episode. We were talking about, are the Padres as desirable of a destination given the infighting in that organization right now? It wasn't too long ago that there was an article about then manager, he manages with the Giants now, Bob Melvin, the infighting between him and AJ Preller, the lack of leadership in the organization, the friction between players, Machado, Bogarts, Soto, Tatis. There was tons of friction in that clubhouse. They have never really had a stable organization structure, despite the incredible list of talent they've had. Dylan Cease, Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Sander Bogarts, Fernando Tatis Jr., Luis Arraez, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove. It goes on and on and on. These dudes have had studs. Tanner Scott for half a year. They've had legitimate star power walking in and out of that clubhouse for the last 3 to 4 years, and they have not been able to be consistently in a contention window. They've had years where they've just been awful or mediocre, and it stems to that organization, the toxicity in that organization. They are trying to shed payroll. They are trying to get rid of money. They are in debt. They are in a bad spot as a franchise. They have no leverage. None at all. The New York Yankees, the New York Yankees are a godsend to the San Diego Padres because the New York Yankees desperately need an infielder, do not want to pay Alex Bregman, and the lack of trade options because the Yankees farm isn't as strong and because there just really isn't anyone available, the Padres are in a bad spot. So, I know that this is an Oswaldo Cabrera episode, and I'm going to round it back to him by saying this. The Yankees have an abundance of options they can go to in the market, one of them being a player who may not get moved to anybody other than the Yankees. They have a utility man in Cabrera who's young, who can hit against right-handed pitching, and I'm comfortable playing him against right-handed pitching every single time we face a righty. I feel like you want to have both of that. You want to have a new infielder, and you want to have Cabrera there. Depth is depth. The Yankees do not have a surplus of infielders. There's no such thing, in my opinion, as a surplus of position player talent. Alex, when's the last time you felt like the Yankees have had too many good position players? I can't tell you a lot. Maybe when I was 2 or 3 in 09. 4 or 5 in 09. That's maybe the last time they've had too many good position players. They need as many of them as they can possibly get. When you lose Soto, you need to just import as much position player talent as humanly possible.
Yeah, exactly. So giving away a key, super utility piece is not in our best interest, I would say. I think most people would probably agree with that take. But, the Yankees are kicking tires, man. We're seeing names and Jorge Polanco and Brendan Rodgers and Luis Arraez and all these certain names popping up. And this is nothing more than Brian Cashman's turning over every stone. You know what I mean? And I think that is super interesting and valuable to note that, yeah, they're interested, or I wouldn't even say interested. I'd say more so kicking the tires to see if other guys what their fits would be. And, they're taking all sorts of calls. They have one last piece to make, but Fortunately, the Yankees have time, right? We still have a month and a half before spring training. So, and even this could go into spring training. They could, go out and trade for somebody or acquire somebody before the regular season starts, even during the regular season. This could last months. But I think Cashman is doing the right thing and exploring every single option. There's not a lot of teams willing to spend, not a lot of teams looking for that type of support just yet, or at least for now. So I think we do have at least an advantage in the case that, okay, like we can spend a bit of money. We do have some stuff. I don't know. I feel as though, Ryan, like Cashman's doing a good job in the process here of not being overly aggressive to go out and get somebody. He's waiting, finding the options, looking at the opportunities. Look, like you said, Arraez, like he really doesn't have a huge market. It might be us, and that's it. The Yankees don't have to rush into an acquisition like that. They can say, all right, we know that Arraez is on the table. But if we go and we find another option that we actually like, you could go back to Stearns, you can go back to the Padres and say, hey, we have another option here that we don't have to give as much, or maybe we're going to give more. So if you want to get rid of Arraez and his money, you have to lessen the offer. Having more options is just in general a better negotiation tactic than just cornering yourself into one spot where Arraez is the only option. So people, like, if you're like, let's get Arraez, we don't have to rush into it. We can still get him, but I want Cashman to turn over every single rock, every single leaf, to discover if there is a better solution on the table. You were texting me this morning about Brendan Donovan. He was in talks for an extension with the Cardinals, and apparently those are falling apart right now. And if the Cardinals are not willing to extend Brendan Donovan, Donovan probably knows they're not going to give him an extension this year, next year, or the year after that. The Cardinals may be more inclined to trade him if they don't get a deal done, because they will probably want to get maximum value. They lost their aura on Paul Goldschmidt. Nolan Arenado's declining fast offensively, if not already has. He's an average hitter now. He's 33. They want to get rid of that money. They're trying to shed money. They don't want to overpay anybody. Donovan's like, listen, I'm one of your key pieces here. Like, show me that respect. If they are not willing to show him that respect, I would not be surprised if Donovan went to them and said, if you're not going to show me that type of respect, I'd prefer if you trade me. You know what I mean? That is possible. So, things are materializing. The Yankees are probably waiting for that deadline today to see, okay, who doesn't get that extension? Who might be on the outs? Who might be available? I'm still holding out hope for Donovan, man. That's why I'm not rushing into Arraez. I'm not rushing into a signing or acquisition. I'm holding out hope that something is going to come available over the next couple of weeks. What do you think about that in terms of just being patient and waiting for an opportunity that might not even be available right now to become available in the coming days?
Yeah, I find it suspicious that Brendan Donovan was quote unquote likely to reach an extension or close to a multi-year deal, and then about 20 minutes later, that it wasn't likely. It sounds like someone got blackmailed. Alex. It
was me, bro. It was me.
No, I mean, I'm just like, it's so funny too, because it was literally 20 minutes after the report comes out. I texted our group chat about it, and then 20 minutes later, they're not close. So I'm like, Alex might have sent some text messages. No, but I mean, look, until a player is off the board, they're not off the board to me. Now, the percentage chance, the likelihood, like Brendan Donovan's Yankees is 5-10% chance maybe, right? In terms of likelihood, will it happen? Do the Yankees have pitching prospects to offer? Sure. It again comes down to, how does Chaim Bloom value, or their front office, their organization value the Yankees prospects? If they like them, great. If they don't, bad. Now, if they feel like they and Brendan Donovan disagree on the player's value, that may indicate that maybe the Cardinals don't value Donovan the way that, we do. And we really like Donovan. We do some pretty crazy trades to get him here. And again, he would also play into versatility. Play a third, second, first, left, right. It would help in that regard. He feels like a pipe dream. And there's nothing wrong with, just exploring and throwing out feelers. We've talked about the wide net the Yankees have casted. You've talked about, you mentioned Donovan, not Brendan Donovan, well, you did, but Brendan Rodgers, Jorge Polanco in that regard too. It's going to be really funny if it's Yankees have acquired Brendan, ... Rodgers. I'm not even a Brendan Rodgers hater, but seeing Yankees have acquired infielder Brendan, my heart would stop for a little bit thinking it might be Donovan. But again, you're right. They can take this even in spring training. There really isn't, until all of the if infielders just start flying off the board tonight. We see Polanco signs a 1-year deal with Houston. No, he's not going to sign with Houston, sorry. Because they have infielders. Signs a 1-year deal with Toronto. I don't know. I'm just throwing a team out there that's active. And Arenado goes to Detroit. And, Ha-Seong Kim signs with the Giants. Or the Diamond. I don't know. I'm thinking of a West Coast team. Or the Angels, right? Like, then I'm going to start going, okay, the Yankees have to start doing something because 1, 2, 3, 4, guys are starting to fly off the board. But it seems like Luis Arraez is like that, like, if all else fails, go right back to that well. You have a well that might be there for you, which is good to have kind of a bankable option. You still have multiple free agents in Kim, who's, going to be a little pricier, but would help this team. Polanco, not as pricey, would help this team. I know people are like, well, he was bad last year. I'm like, yeah, he played in Seattle. Like, hitting in Seattle is the worst thing ever. Like, the home ballpark splits for Seattle are like by far the worst in baseball. They're more extreme than Coors Field, at least this past year it was. So, there's some weird stuff happening in Seattle. The question I have for you, Alex, is if you were to acquire Brendan Donovan, how many games do you think this team would win? And if they were to acquire Luis Arraez, how many games do you think this team would win? Because if they acquire Donovan, I'm at like 97, 98. If they acquire Arraez, I'm at like 90. Well, I can't really. I'm going to say 96 for Donovan, 94, 93 for Arraez. I think that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the defense that Donovan provides. I don't really even care about the regular season wins. I mean, I do, obviously, but like it's marginal probably. It's the postseason, right? It's the playoffs that really make a difference to me. Arraez was really bad in the playoffs this past year. Not to say that's going to happen again, but those defensive problems, like people, I know everyone loves the batting champion stuff and everyone loves the contact hitting, and I'm not going to disagree with you. That is a huge asset to this team. Like, I mean, Brendan Donovan is objectively a better fit for us than Luis Arraez. I think 99% of you guys would agree about that. But that offensive upside that Donovan offers, he could be your leadoff hitter too. And he has a lot of really underrated power. He fits our stadium like a glove. The defense, though, in a big moment in the playoffs, when you need to turn two, when you need to make something happen, and there's a play that needs to be made, Donovan's going to make that play for you. Arraez is going to make a mistake. You know what I mean? That's just what history has told us. That's what the stats tell us. And I know a lot of people hate advanced stats. I don't even care about advanced stats. Look at the basic, like, average stats. That tells you that he's going to make mistakes in big moments. Donovan is going to be better and much more probable to make something happen. But the offense still, like, slugging, it's just head over heels better. And he's still a high batting average guy. I think Donovan hit 273, 274 last year. It's no walk in the park, man. That's a freaking solid number. So I'm happy with that. I think that you're going to just be a much better team on both sides of the ball. You have no liabilities. Your infield is shored up, and let me preface this by saying, Brendan Donovan's under control for years. You know what I mean? I would extend him now. Like, how much could he really want if the Cardinals were going to extend him? That contract couldn't have been that crazy. I mean, we just saw Brent Rooker sign a very favorable deal with the Athletics. Like, Donovan probably would have accepted a pretty decent deal from the Cardinals. I don't get the sense that he would cost the Yankees an arm and a leg. I would spend that money. I would spend money on Brendan Donovan and just make Ben Rice your first baseman and live with that in the future. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't even have to do that now. Like,
yeah, you
wait.
don't have to make that decision now, and you could also slide Bellinger first if you have to. Like, that's what flexibility does for you, right? You can move guys around, and Donovan, I'd give him like 6 years, $100 million, like right now. Like, I think the world of the guy. I think he's a really good player. I know that I guess that there are people who would say like you're overvaluing what is probably a 3 to 4 WAR player, but like I would also say, all right, cool. Point to how many 3 to 4 WAR second basemen are out there, and how many of them are gonna change teams in the next 2 years. Let me pull up the list this past year of second basemen, or I'll say third baseman and second baseman, who accumulated 4 WAR or more this past season. Ketel Marte on Fangraphs. Ketel Marte, Marcus Semien. Jose Altuve was 3.9. Nico Horner was 3.9. I'll put them both, kind of group them there. Horner could get moved, but I doubt it's going to be this year. You think Altuve is going to become available for the Yankees? You think Simeon's going to become available for the Yankees? You think Ketel Marte is available to the Yankees? Absolutely not. Let's look at third base. This group includes Jose Ramirez, not getting moved to the Yankees. Matt Chapman recently got extended. Rafael Devers recently got extended. Bregman, free agent. Yankees aren't signing him. Josh Chisholm's the other guy. He's already on the Yankees. Eugenio Suarez, Manny Machado, they're in that 3.8, 3.6 range. We'll group them in here. Suarez, maybe, but I doubt the Diamondbacks are going to trade him. Maybe he signs with them in a year. Machado, he just got a big extension. I doubt the Yankees trade for that. So the sum of like good like 3 to 4 WAR second and third baseman really don't exist out there. I know that you could say, well, why isn't Donovan in that group if he's so good? Well, number one, he wasn't a primary second baseman / third baseman. He played 105 games in left field. That hurts your defensive value in terms of wins above replacement. He's also not as good of a left fielder as he is a second baseman. So Yankees would be playing him in his natural position. He would likely accumulate 4 to maybe even 5 WAR playing as a New York Yankee because he'd play him at second or third base full time. And number two, the ballpark fits him a lot better. So again, we're just talking about someone who's clearly better than most players available to the Yankees, or even the guys who are at the top of the position who are clearly not available to the Yankees. It's why when I say like a 3 to 4 WAR infielder would change everything for the Yankees, because it's just not easy to find. It is a hard thing to find. It is not widely available. It is not something you can just stumble onto, walking down the street. It's not like Brian Crash is going to go, yeah, well, somebody will fall into our laps for a 3 to 4 WAR second baseman or third baseman. Maybe a decent player pops up and falls into our lap. Again, like Luis Arraez is good. He's just not as good as Brendan Donovan, in my opinion. Maybe that could fall into our laps, but like a guy like Brendan Donovan, who's a stable, do-it-all, as you mentioned, defense, offense, fits right into the Yankees' plans, left-handed hitter, on-base machine, has a little bit of sneaky pop. Like, come on. You know what I mean? So the last thing I'd also like to point out here is if I were to do a mock trade, now, I have to make an offer right now to the Cardinals. Let's say, I'm assuming this thing's going to fall apart because it reportedly has. Let's kind of piece together what a trade would look like here. I would offer first-round pick Ben Hess. I know it's aggressive to offer a guy who just drafted in the first round, but got to do what you got to do. First-round pick Ben Hess, Chase Hampton, and then I'd offer like someone in the lower level of the minor leagues, maybe someone like a Carlos LaGrange, who's a top 10 prospect in the organization. So you offer 2 top 10s, and you offer 3 guys in your top 10 or 3 guys in your top 15. I think that's a pretty impressive offer for Brendan Donovan. I think that would at least get the Cardinals talking. I don't know if you have to offer major league talent. I wonder if prospect talent is more attractive to them. But in my opinion, that would be a deal that like maybe, just maybe, could get a deal done. I don't know. Do you think it's too much? Would you offer more? Like what would you do that deal? I don't know if the Cardinals would, but I 100% would.
Repeat the deal one more time so I can walk through this.
It's Ben Hess, Chase Hampton, and Carlos LaGrange. Hampton is about a year away from the bigs. Had injury issues last year. Hess just got drafted. Coming out of college, though, could be a 2 to 3 year guy. Carlos LaGrange just pitched in single A, so he's, again, like a 2 to 3 year guy at the very minimum. He's 20 years old. Hampton's 23, and Hess is turning 22.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're going to be selling pitchers, I'm okay with that because of our draft class last year. We took, 7 or 8 pitchers. You still have next year's draft class, too. And also, you have a number of controllable arms in your rotation. And if you get Roki Sasaki, I don't give a shit who you give up to get Brendan Donovan. You trade anyone in your damn farm system to get him because Roki Sasaki is controllable for the next how many years? Basically a rookie. And Clark Schmidt's under contract till 2028, I believe. And Luis Heel is also like pre-arbitration. So if you're the Yankees, you already have a bunch of cost-controlled, controllable pitchers in your starting rotation. You still have Will Boren. You still have Clayton Beeter. You still have some pieces. You still have your draft picks from last year. Yeah, I'm sending those guys for Brendan Donovan for 2 years of control. He is the missing link to this infield. He is going to give you... He could hit 20-plus homers in Yankee Stadium. He'll play great defense for you, have that versatility. He had 8 defensive runs in 139 innings at freaking third base like 2 years ago. So, like... He could do multiple things for you. You could align your infield however you want at that point. You have one of the best defensive infields in the sport at that time. You have a high upside player in Donovan. Jazz Chisholm, we haven't even really seen a full season of him with the Yankees. So, and Volpe's still developing. I think he gets better offensively. There's a lot to like about that. If I'm the Yankees, the reason I'm waiting for to make a deal right now is because I think Brendan Donovan's going to become available. I think that the Cardinals do not want to pay him, and I think that the fact that they're going to let him get by without a rotation, or without an extension right now, is very, very problematic for them. I think that that's a disrespectful move to one of their key leaders, and I think he will probably acknowledge that. I'm not going to sit here and act like he is available because I don't know if he is or will be. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees started kicking tires there and started to see if that was something that might be available, an option for them. And if we get Sasaki, blow the damn doors off, man. Give them something they can't refuse. So that's kind of my opinion right now. I do think that being patient makes the most sense, and I would make that deal. I would make that deal even without Roki Sasaki because you have to capitalize on Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole right now. And if you are going to let a couple of prospects, one of them coming off an injury-prone season in Chase Hampton, you're going to let a couple prospects stand in the way of you really competing for a championship this upcoming season, it's malpractice in my opinion. When you have a guy that's coming off an MVP, how many years left does he have at this type of capacity, this level of production? We don't know. Garrett Cole's already showing signs of decline. We need to jump on the freaking wagon now and punch that thing in with Marshawn Lynch. That's my opinion. I'm pretty interested to see how this thing starts to materialize over the next couple weeks. If they end up getting Brendan Donovan, Ryan, we will be the leader of the Brendan Donovan brigade. We have been talking about this guy for so freaking long.
And the last thing I want to mention is that we again say a lot of these things is like, there's no rumored, there's no way to know how available he is, but things can move so fast. If the guy was about to sign an ARB extension, we were waxing poetic about, damn, it sucks that he's not going to get traded, to it fell apart. It took 20 minutes for the reports to change like that. Things move like this. It takes one phone call. It always takes one phone call. Again, there are other players available. We'll see what the Yankees do, but I doubt they move Cabrera. I think that's kind of our big take. I doubt they do. Brandon Cuddy said the very same thing, and he was the one who reported that teams were inquiring. I doubt they move him. If they get a real big infielder, like a Donovan, a Cabrera being your fifth guy, your fifth infielder, he can play all four spots. You just feel so much better about this team depth-wise. This bench has issues. Cabrera being traded would hurt the ability to improve your bench, and I doubt there's a guy out there as cheap as him who's going to play his role the way he can. If anything, if you're going to do anything to the bench, you add to the bench. You cut LeMahieu and you add to the bench. That's what I would do personally. And of course with Donovan, again, it's always one phone call. Things change like this. It changes in 20 minutes. It can change in literally 20 minutes, man.
It absolutely can, and we're going to see how things materialize over the next couple months, a couple weeks even. So we always got you guys covered on Fireside Yankees. Make sure to drop your opinions, conversations in the YouTube comments. Always happy to link with you guys on there. Make sure to drop a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. As always, we appreciate you guys so much. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.